Well, we could tell her.
Alright, so we're rolling. So Shay, what are we doing here today? Do you know? Why, well, first, why are we at Grandpa's house?
I don't know.
Yes, you do.
You forgot.
How old is he today? How old is
It's
he?
his birthday.
70.
But what are we all sitting here right now for with that thing?
I don't know.
We are going to talk about something. Do you remember what we were going to talk about?
Your life?
That's
There you go.
right. See, you do remember.
You are. You know what's up.
And you're like, why would anyone want to do that?
Well, that's what she said, and I said, well, these two are really
So-
old and they have a lot of stories. So that's
Oh,
that's what I told
thanks,
her.
Dan. It's true, though. We are very old. But maybe someday your mom and dad will do that, and then you can hear all the stories they have to say.
Right. Right.
That'll be fun. Okay.
And they'll probably be more interesting. Are we, is
No.
the camera rolling yet?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
It is rolling?
Yeah, see how easy that was?
Okay. Well, start asking, firing away there, Dan.
Okay, so Shay, you can come and go, whatever you think, I guess.
You can stay right here if you want.
So, okay, yeah, we have all these questions. Let me think about what do you. So we have these kind of, you know, your elders that you know stories about, or early childhood, or you know, teenage, you know, early 20s questions. You guys have a place that you like to start?
Well, the ones, not the ones about the grandparents, but the ones next down, like our childhood.
Yeah, you want to
Like,
talk about that?
yeah, I thought those were
All right,
kind
well.
of interesting.
What did you guys do for birthdays?
You want to go first?
We do for birthdays. We had cake.
We had a birthday cake. Mom made a cake. We didn't have a bought cake.
Yeah.
But Mom made a cake.
We generally didn't have people over though.
No.
Yeah, so
We did
just
not.
you guys.
No, we did
Okay.
not have. Although
We did
I
have a
did
friend.
have a
Yeah.
birthday party. I did have a birthday party. I could bring home like 3 friends from school.
How old were you? Or what grade?
Probably 4th
Senior.
grade, maybe.
Yeah,
Yes,
4th
senior
grade.
high school. No, probably 4th grade.
Yeah.
And they walked home with me.
All
And I
right.
remember thinking, I was the only one that knew where I was going. That's the only time I ever felt that way.
Yeah.
I was the only one that knew where I was going because they didn't know where I
Yeah.
lived. So they all kind of had to follow me. But so yeah, we did occasionally. And I'm sure Jean did too. I don't know that Tom didn't. You never had a birthday party? Had some friends over?
Not that I recall.
Okay. Well, we had, and also the other thing we got to do on our birthday was we got to have a meal request. Mom
Yeah.
would cook us what we like, our favorite, which mine was always ham. What was yours?
What? Hamburgers?
Hamburgers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ham
Yeah,
and
you,
hamburgers.
yeah, he didn't like too much. So yeah, that's what we
Yeah.
did for birthdays. But we did have a birthday cake, and
Yeah. So that was after dinner, or that was in the afternoon, or what? Your birthday, the actual party? If it's like a weekday or something.
it was like right after school.
Yeah.
So it would have been around 3:30 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, you know, we had a Halloween party one time too, and I don't remember all about that. I just remember we had one. I don't know if we had games, like they play at birthday parties. Me, Jean, well, we did have a Halloween party, all of us.
And you had kids over from your school to the, for that night.
Did we
for
dressed
Halloween?
up in costume?
Yeah, because it was during Halloween. What do you get a chip and sit down? You can. Yeah, so that's what we did.
I don't
And
remember a Halloween party either.
okay, well,
So,
Was I invited?
no, probably not. Apparently you weren't.
so for Halloween, was it in the afternoon or was it at night? You guys running around getting candy.
Oh, that was a 3-day deal, right, Tom?
That's right.
Ooh, wow.
It was 3 days. And we really didn't go that far. Well, some of us didn't.
Yeah.
Some of us went wherever they wanted. But, and we tried to dress differently for every night, but we didn't like have bought costumes. You know, you had to make your own.
Everybody
Naturally.
was a hobo.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of hobos. Right.
It was the easiest one to do.
Yeah.
That was the easiest one to do. Or a fat lady,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
just put a pillow in. And so yeah, that's hard to believe, but we did go for 3 nights.
Why did you get to go for 2 nights? What was the deal?
I
That was a
don't know.
tradition back then.
So in your neighborhood or in Canton or something, people just give you candy 3 nights in a row.
Yep.
I guess.
Either that
And
or
it was
ruin
at
their
night.
house.
Yeah, right. You get the eggs out or something.
Right. Or
And Bernie had to screen all the candy.
Yeah, and when we bought it home, Dad
So
would,
He had to take his cut.
Make
Dad
sure no
would
razor
pick out
blades
what
in
he
there.
wanted, and he'd say, "Oh, give me one of those Baby Ruths, give me one of these," and of course you had really no choice. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was a big haul for 3 days.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, you come home in the middle of the first night and drop a bag off and go back out.
Yeah,
You got too
we
heavy
were
to
pretty
carry.
greedy.
Yeah. Well,
That'll
at
last for a year, come on.
least, yeah, right. Hide it under your bed or something.
Right.
Yep. Well, that's pretty good. 3 days of Halloween. So you had a Halloween party, and that was.
I do remember that, and I don't remember how many people were there, but you know, we did have some kids there, and obviously, apparently Tom wasn't there,
Yeah. he missed
so
out.
maybe it was just girls. I don't know.
Mhm. So yeah, here's one. You know, so we're talking about family fun.
Yes.
You didn't really go on vacations, right? What's the closest thing you had?
To
as-
me, it was Myers Lake.
Yeah. So you.
That was it,
Who would
because
go?
that was like every
Yeah.
other year we went,
That
right?
was an annual fort picnic.
Right, it was the annual Fort
Okay,
picnic,
so
and
everybody
sometimes
would
it
go.
was at Idor Park, and
Mhm.
but when it was at Myers Lake, you know, we could go because
Yeah.
we could just get on the bus and go.
Yeah.
And that was for me, it was the highlight of the summer.
Mhm.
How about you? Did you look forward to that?
Sure.
Yeah.
So the whole family.
Family
went?
bus trips.
Yeah,
Yeah.
another family bus trip, and
But we had a car
I
though,
was
we
gonna say.
were I was probably in the 5th or 6th grade.
that's probably right. Yeah, we never could nail down when we got a car.
Mm.
We got a TV before we got a car.
Yeah. Well, you know, priorities, I guess.
Yeah, but
Well, TVs were cheaper than cars.
Yeah,
for us,
right.
we had a garage 13 years before we got a car.
Before we had a car, yeah, right, that's right.
Yeah. Shay, can you believe that when they were kids, they didn't have a TV or a car? What would you do?
Listen to the radio,
Yeah.
and that's what we did.
Yeah, that was big.
We
You
listened to
listen
the radio.
You guys have a big stand-up radio
Mhm.
thing that
Yeah.
you listen to? Yeah.
Yep, we listened to the radio, we listened to the Lone Ranger, we listened to Ozzie and Harriet, we listened to, actually Santa Claus was on the radio, and he would read your letters when you sent them, remember that?
Yep.
And so you would send letters, and you would sign your name, and Santa would pick them up, and every night he would read letters, and he would
Yeah.
say, and Peggy wants blah blah blah, and Tommy
Blah, blah,
wants
blah.
some Tinker toys, and
Yeah. So you-
Jeannie wants a personality. That wasn't nice. Scratch that.
It's all on the. It's all
That
tape.
was not nice. But
We listened to Amos and Andy.
we did listen to Amos and Andy. We listened to Baby Snooks,
Mhm.
and you never heard of Baby Snooks, I'm
No.
sure.
I
Fanny
like the
Bryce
name, though.
talked for her.
Mhm.
And we listened to some other show. We listened to the fights, the Friday night
Oh, yeah.
fights.
Those were good.
Mhm.
Why we listened to them, I have no idea, but we did listen to the fights. My dad listened to the baseball games, that was
Yeah.
playing on them, and when we were eating dinner, if the baseball game was on, you know, then there was no talking because the bases were loaded,
Yeah.
and yeah.
Gotta hear.
And so was Dad.
So did you guys eat in the kitchen or did you guys eat in that dining room?
Kitchen.
Always the kitchen,
Right.
except Thanksgiving, when
Yeah.
we ate in the dining room.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for a long time, Dad had the dining room table locked up for his die designing mail order
Mhm.
school.
Mm-hmm.
He had a drawing board on there and.
I remember
papers all
the
over
drawing
place.
board, the easel, he had
Yeah.
like this drawing board on, and I let the sink overflow upstairs in the bathroom because the phone rang, and I ran downstairs to answer and left the water running, and it
Through the
dripped
ceiling.
Yeah.
right through the ceiling
Nice.
onto his draft.
Uh.
That I don't know how long he had been working on this,
Yeah.
but he was very, very mad.
Can you believe that?
So,
How could that
And, like,
happen?
so what were the consequences of something like that?
Oh, just to get yelled at.
Oh.
I mean, it was an accident, but you know,
You didn't have to
I
get
was wound
grounded
up
somehow?
crying. No,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. So that was what, in the late 40s when he was doing that? When did he
No,
get his-
That was
no.
in the 50s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it would have been in the 50s,
But he
right?
worked, he actually worked in the shop as a toolmaker in a die shop.
Mm-hmm.
And he was taking these correspondence courses to become a die designer.
Yeah.
And, you know, he'd do the drawings and mail them in, and they'd come back with grades and either correct this or don't do anything to it. And he finally got a certificate out
Yeah. Like
that allowed him to apply for a salary job.
Yeah.
To
When he was
move
in the
to
shop,
college.
He was a union steward too.
Yeah, he was vice president of the union
Yeah.
for a while.
And
And then he ran for president, and Mom was, I thought it was kind of
First
exciting. He
lady.
had his little cards out that he was passing out, and he was running, and Mom was like praying that he wouldn't make it, because she just knew all the union meetings that he'd be going
Oh,
to,
yeah.
and more drinking, and so he didn't make it.
yeah.
But he was a big union guy.
Yeah. And those were, so this is forging die design. This is that axle plant, right?
Well, he was
So-
a tool and die
Yeah.
worker, right?
And then-
Yeah, but when he worked in the shop, I mean.
Yeah, he actually made the dies that extruded the steel. And then when he, upstairs, he designed the dies that he used to make.
So that was his first steady work, really?
Well, he worked at Hercules. And what was that place he worked on, West Tustown, that my mother used to take us after lunch? She must have worked afternoons because she would walk us out to West Tusk, and it wasn't that far of a walk,
Yeah.
after we ate. And we would go, he would get us lunch at that time.
Uh-huh.
And we would walk up there, and
It wasn't a shop, was it?
it must have been. It was down by the Duper Hampton Watchworks. And it was down by the Nichols Bakery because I remember smelling the bakery.
Yeah, right.
You know? And I
don't
never
remember
did
what it
know what shop that was. You don't remember that? Okay, well, we did go up and that he had his lunch break then.
Yeah.
So we went up and ate lunch with, well, he ate lunch and we just sat there and
Yeah.
were admired maybe. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. So then after the war, he had pretty steady work the whole way.
He worked at Hercules and I think
What's
he worked
Her-
at the Troy Laundry for a while.
That was before Hercules.
What's
right.
Hercules?
It was an engine plant that
Oh, okay.
became White Motors.
Yeah.
Bolton's dad was actually a vice president of the place long after Bernie was there.
Yeah.
Before he retired, that's what he was doing.
All right. Well, that's some pretty interesting
I like that
stuff
first
there.
question. You haven't asked it yet, Dan.
Okay, so what comes to mind when you think of your childhood? That's the question?
Oh, no. The
What?
next one, then I guess.
What are some fond childhood memories?
There was something about your
Can you
mother
tell me
and your
what
father.
What do you want?
The one about your mother. Was
What-
your mother cheerful? Was
So,
she?
oh yeah, so yeah, what was grandma like as a mom?
I would say, I would say that she was very upbeat. She was not stern. She was pretty laid back.
Yeah.
I think back then she really liked kids.
Only for the first three.
And she
Of
didn't,
course
you know,
she had
she only
12
had
of them.
one, yeah, she only had one brother, and he was like, she might as well have been an only child. He was
Yeah.
9 years older than she was.
Yeah.
So I think she really liked having kids.
Mm-hmm.
And she was a lot of fun,
Yeah.
actually. I mean, she didn't care about, like, Tom could have his friends in the backyard. They had boxing matches. We, all the kids would come and sit on the glider on our front porch. She never cared. And
Okay.
usually that is what happens, is that all the kids hang out at the house.
Yeah.
And, yeah, she was a pretty cool mom.
So she let you
actually.
guys, have a lot of fun, do
And-
a lot of stuff.
She wore shorts, so she was kind of a bit of a scandal
Ooh,
of the
yeah.
neighborhood. Because most women back then, you know, in their early 50s, housewives didn't
Yeah.
wear shorts.
They just had their
But she had
hose
nice
rolled up around
legs,
their
so
ankles.
she did, huh?
They just had their hose rolled down around their ankles like that.
I know. But yeah, she was a good mom. Would you agree?
Sure,
She was pretty
A lot
upbeat.
more fun than Bernie.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was a lot more fun, but he was more
She was
brilliant.
more athletic. She'd go out and play catch with you.
Well, and plus, she could fix everything. There was this tool, what was it called in the basement? That tool,
The tool bench.
his tool bench. And that was just like an inside joke because he never was ever down there.
Yeah.
She fixed everything. Fuses blew, she fixed them.
Yeah.
I mean, anything that broke, she fixed it. He didn't fix anything. Once he come home from work, his day was done.
Yeah.
He was on his time,
Yeah.
and out came the books and whatever he was reading.
Yeah.
He had a rule though for that tool bench.
Oh, he did? What?
Oh yeah, he knew where everything was on the tool bench, and if you you could use any tool you wanted, but you had to put it back where you got it. It's like if you took a wrench or a screwdriver and do whatever you want, you had to put it back in the same spot or he wouldn't know it. Because when I'd goof around with bikes, I'd have wrenches and stuff like that out, and I'd throw them up on the tool bench if I even thought to take them back. And he'd raise holy hell if they weren't where. Not like he used them, he just liked to know where they were.
Well, he raised holy hell if you had, excuse me, honey, if you had, if you left the tube off, the lid off the toothpaste tube. I mean, little stupid stuff like that he would get, really.
Yeah.
He was like a, what do you call that one? A perfectionist.
Yeah.
You know, and everything had to be. But actually, though, to get to the dad part of the equation,
Yeah.
now I think he maybe didn't do that much when later on. Look at grandma. But he did actually take Gene and Tom and I a lot of places.
Oh yeah.
He took us to the circus. He took us to the roller derby. Do you remember that? And he took us on a train ride. Now, Mom didn't go on any of these, and she was probably pregnant.
Yeah.
And he probably gave her a break.
Yeah.
And got us out of the house. And he took us to parades. He really did take, and you know, this was all walking.
Yeah.
You know, we
Or
didn't
the
have
bus.
Or the bus, right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he could be, and he was funny.
Yeah.
He was
With a good sense of
probably one of the funniest guys I ever met in my life. He really was. Wasn't he funny?
Oh, yeah.
He had a great sense of humor. I mean, he could have everybody cracking up laughing and never a smile would cross his face. Had a real dry sense of humor.
Yeah.
And a fierce temper.
For all the impatience that he had, which happened frequently, he would sit with you all night and explain some math problem to you until you got it. If you
Absolutely.
did homework, and he'd check your homework and
You
you
should
didn't
have
have
been
it
a
right.
teacher.
Yeah. You just sit there at the footstool and he would explain it 6 ways of Sundays.
Yeah.
So he was sure you got it.
Yeah, he would. I mean, I did feel like I was at had an unfair advantage with him being the dad, because my friends would call me up because their dads didn't know how to figure some of this stuff out,
Yeah.
you know. But he, and like Tom said, he would, as long as he thought you were really serious and you weren't just goofing off, because he would never solve the problem for you.
Yeah.
But he would say, he would start all over on a fresh piece of paper, and he wrote like a draftsman, like all his fours were like, you know,
Yeah.
points, and the eights were 2 circles, and
Yeah.
right. And but he never said, oh, you can't get this, just, you know, like Tom said, you know, he had all the patience in the world for that. He should have been a teacher.
Yeah. So yeah, when it came to homework.
And he did crazy stuff. Like he used to say to us, hey, you guys, you want to see how the firemen carry the victims out of a burning building?
Yeah.
And like he grabbed my mother to throw her over his shoulder.
Yeah.
And she go, don't you dare burn, put me down. And there he grabbed the hose outside and sprayed her through the screen door right in the living room, and all this water would
That's
come
where we had
in.
wall-to-wall tile though.
I know.
When he bought housing products, he bought them in bulk, you know, we.
Paneled one wall,
We
and the
paneled
whole
the whole
downstairs got
downstairs,
paneled.
put
Right.
tile down one floor, we put tile down on every floor.
And Tom says it looks like I feel like we're living in a log cabin. Right. But they did stuff like that, and they laid down the tile, and we thought we were really moving up the ladder when we had all that tile put down.
Yeah. Instead of what, linoleum?
No, we had a rug.
Linoleum
in it.
squares.
Yeah. Oh, that.
Well, that was yeah.
That was the,
And
Top
that,
of
they almost finished it before Mom had to go to the hospital, and they were like 6 squares left, because they came in these squares. And she went to the hospital, and when she come back, like 7, 8 days later, they were still sitting there.
Yeah. So he got them finished, or she finished them?
She finished
She
it.
finished them.
that's
Right.
when she had that old Singer sewing machine, that wrought iron.
Right.
With a-
And she had it between the,
Where we used to have
Door-
the ice box,
right.
and they
Well,
tied the
that's
dog
the
to
ice
that.
box.
They tied Duke.
And he would drag it across the
Because
floor.
the girls didn't like him.
Yeah.
And he'd take off and
Right,
he'd
we
drag
did.
this wrought iron sewing machine through the house, banging off the door.
He's worse than Dominic Shea.
And they would tie him to the glider on the front porch, and when somebody would come up, he would drag the whole glider. I mean, it was Tom's dog.
Yep.
Tom was supposed to take care of him.
Of course.
And he did for a while until he hurt his arm, and then Dad would say, Tom, go take that dog for a walk. And Tom would walk around the side of the house and stand there for as long as he thought it would take for a walk, and then he'd walk back in the house.
Yeah.
I took him for a walk.
Bertie used to take Casey for a walk from the front door to the garage.
Did he? Is that what he
Say something.
And he would put him in the car and they would drive around the block so he could see that weather tower downtown to see what the weather forecast was. And they'd put the car in the garage and then Casey'd get out and they'd go back in the house.
No, it was his big exercise, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, as a bulldog, he doesn't do much exercise anyway, right?
right.
He went to the bar sometimes, though, right? The bulldog.
The bulldog went to the bar?
I took him.
Oh, you took him.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we went down to the corner tavern when Louis lived there. He lived
Oh,
above-
Mary Jo's uncle?
Yeah.
Mm.
And we'd take Casey down there and sit in one of the back booths and we'd play cribbage with him. Casey would lay there and these drunks would get up to go to the bathroom to see him and kind of sober up for a minute.
They got a dog into that place. Can you believe
We
it?
told him he was a CNI dog.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, when you hurt your arm, what'd you do? You came down the stairs and went through the front door?
Well, I think what you're talking about, I broke it playing football when we had Duke.
Right, right.
When I was supposedly taking him to training
You were
class.
going to training classes,
Oh,
so
okay.
layman, right.
And then you had to quit the training classes because you had broken arm.
Yeah, and that was the end of Duke's official
And that's
training.
when Mom
And then
went
he
to the
was
hospital
wild.
and refused to come out until Dad got rid of him.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, because the dog would
I'm
just
not
see an
coming home.
opening, the front door would open a little bit, and he would just book
Yeah.
and run up and down the street, and Mom's the only one that could get him in.
Yeah.
We
You
didn't
know,
know the
she wasn't
secret word
scared
then.
of him.
Yeah.
Gene and I were scared of him.
Yeah. He was a boxer, right?
Yes, he
Right.
was a boxer.
Some guy at work gave him to him.
Oh, is that where they got him? I didn't know.
Yeah. He just had a bunch of pups and Bernie took one. He got hit by a car one time.
And he kept right on running.
Yeah, we were, in the winter, we're outside
He
playing.
was
I was-
indestructible.
We were throwing snowballs at him, he was dodging them, he ran out in the street and the car hit him and he flew up in the air and landed on his feet and he kept going.
Yeah. We said, oh, what a dog, gee.
That's right.
It's like super
Wonder
dog.
dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonder dog.
Wonder dog. Well, that's pretty good.
Oh, the other things that we did besides the vacation to the amusement park was we would go to my grandmother's. We would get on the bus on Saturday. The whole family would go, and the bus just changed. You know, it was the same bus that went to my grandma's. When we got down on the square, it would change it to that Southwest thing. So we didn't even have to get a transfer or anything. So, and it would drop you off like right almost in front of her house.
Around the corner.
Yeah, and then we would go in there and like, oh, Grandma, here we are. And Dad would leave and go to the bar. And
That's where we had
the
to
same
play.
bar that Teresa was at when he was dying. That's where she was. Isn't that ironic?
We grew up there till I was 3, you were 5 when we moved off of Clarendon up to Harriet.
Right. Yeah, we lived at
So
Grandma's house.
We knew something about the house.
We didn't know anything about the White Crown.
No, we didn't know about the crowd.
We didn't know about that. But that's what he did. And then, of course, my mom would be concerned that he's not going to get home in time
For the last
to get
bus.
the last bus.
Yeah.
And then what would we do? I guess we'd have to just sleep on their floor or something.
Yeah.
No, we'd walk.
But he always did get back in time, but not in the best of moods.
We'd be the only ones on the bus.
And then he would say, you know,
It's a
oh,
canary
this
bus."
is a canary bus. And like, oh boy, we own our own bus now. It was kind of fun. She was probably like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But,
So
yeah,
you guys, you'd have to hang out and wait for him.
Yeah,
and then
we
go
waited for
get on
him.
the bus and go back. So she lived by herself at that time?
Grandma?
Yeah.
No, I think she lived with her daughter and
Margaret.
her husband.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So she didn't live by herself. But it was nice because when we wanted to go visit her, all we had to do was walk up like 2 blocks from her house and hop on the bus, and it took you all the way to her
Right
house.
over there. So Southwest.
So that's
maybe.
why Tom said, I can't believe we were that young on the bus, but
Yeah.
that's why we could do it, because the way the bus ran.
Yeah. So what was she like?
Grandma?
Yeah.
Oh, she was great. She was a stereotypical grandma that you'd think of. You know,
Yeah.
the cookie baking, gingerbread making, take your side. And we loved it when she came to our house, like when my mom went to the hospital to have another
Every
child.
9 months.
Yeah, every 9 months, right? When grandma would come. Because she wasn't afraid of my dad, like, I mean,
Yeah.
it's her son, like we were. So she would just tell him, oh, shut up, Benny.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're like, oh boy, look at her go, you
Yeah,
know.
that's
Because we couldn't ever say anything like that. But she was really,
She was deaf as a barn door.
yeah, and she had a hearing aid, but I think she just turned it off.
Yeah.
And she just didn't want to hear anymore.
When she would come and stay with us for those week at a time thing, Jack would come up and hardwire a speaker into our television and run like
Oh, I
40
remember
feet
that.
of wire behind the couch, and had a box. She would hold the
I
box
remember
with a
that.
speaker in it to listen to the television.
All right.
But I'd bring guys home from school and walk in the house and make sure nobody was there except Grandma. And I'd start saying some nasty stuff, and these guys were looking at me like, whoa.
Yeah, she can't hear it, right.
Yep. So how did Rosie and her get along?
Oh,
Very
she
good.
adored her.
Yeah.
She said she, I don't know what I would have done without her. She never said a negative word about her. And I don't know how she could have.
Yeah.
I mean, when Tom, you know, went through the front door and had to go to the hospital, she was there, Grandma was there. And then that night, when the stitches broke open and, you know, poor Grandma, she had to deal with it because Dad must have been working midnights then.
Yeah.
And, you know, and all his bleeding, and it wouldn't stop bleeding, and I felt really bad for him. I mean, I really did.
They wanted to get Mary Jo's mom.
Yeah, yeah.
No
I said,
way.
Grandma, I'll call Mrs. Shane, because that's who we would call for anything. I
Yeah.
mean, they had a car and everything, and they were
Right.
like such great people. And Tom's like, no, don't you dare. He's like, "You can't. I'm not getting a shot. So he didn't go. He didn't go to the hospital. We didn't call Mrs. Shane, and Grandma just had to deal with it. And I guess she finally got the bleeding stuff.
Wrapped it up tight.
But I don't think she signed up for all that.
Yeah.
I mean, she was just going to watch us. But we were good kids to watch. I mean, you know, we didn't want to have Dad yell at us.
Yeah.
And he did hit too. It wasn't
Yeah.
like you said, well, what would happen to you? Well, nothing for overflowing the, you know, making
Yeah.
this thing go bad, but like if we were upstairs running around, you know, when we were supposed to be in bed, Dad would come up 3 steps at a time. I mean, he got up so fast I can't even believe it.
Yeah.
And, you know, bam, bam, he didn't even ask any questions, except I was in bed one time. And he said, and I was pretending I was asleep, like, yeah, good luck with that. And he said, Peg, were you out of bed too? And I thought he'll be impressed by my honesty. And I said, yes, Daddy. Bam! That didn't work.
Taught her a lesson.
Yeah, don't be honest. But yeah, he was very, you know, when we were in bed, he'd expect us to be in bed because that was his time to read. And that's the major picture I have of him, as sitting in his chair, reading, always reading. And when we got a TV, he chose what was going to be shown.
Yeah.
And if there was nothing that he thought was worthwhile watching, it went off. We didn't watch anything.
There were 3 choices on
I know there were only 3 choices, so it didn't take much to. And,
Yeah.
3 channels.
and then if he thought there was something that we needed to watch, he would say, like one time they
Meet
had.
the press.
No, they had A Tale of Two Cities was on, and we were watching like Shindig or something, and he come in, he goes, hey, A Tale of Two Cities is on, turn that. And we all get up to walk out of the room like, okay. And he goes, no. You come back here, you're watching this. And there's going to be a quiz on it. There was no quiz, but I really paid close attention in case there was a quiz. And most of the stuff he was on TV, he thought was rot.
Yeah.
So, and he was probably right, but we didn't care. It was the TV,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It's what TV's for
Black
sometimes.
and white.
Well, yeah, but everybody's was black and white.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Question Man.
All right. Let's see. We're covering a lot of these in bits and pieces. So that's
Yeah.
good. Yeah. So all right, those guys. So
Well, what did we do for fun in the summer? You didn't get to that.
yeah. What did you do for fun this summer?
You go first. I've been doing all the time.
Was swimming.
He did a lot more than Gene and I did.
Mm-hmm.
He did. I mean, we all had a lot of freedom, and that's what I remember
Yeah, we had a
most.
ton of
We had a ton of freedom. That was
When
all
I-
part of the 50s
When the
thing.
sun came up, you had to be home till the street lights came
That's
on.
right.
I didn't care where you were all day.
No,
Yeah.
but he took advantage of all that freedom. We didn't. We could have, but we didn't. You know, we were girls, and
Yeah.
so we did. But
Yeah, once you got a
yes,
bike,
it's-
you could be anywhere.
yeah, and you did go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But we read comic books, and since we, you know, when they'd give us a dime each for a comic book, we'd have 3. So, you know, you get three books.
Do we have an allowance of so much, like a quarter or something a month? That's
don't-
ridiculous. 'Cause we used to go up to Constance to buy
We
comics.
did go up to Conkle's, and I think that's when they decided they wanted to take an afternoon delight. And that got us out of the house. I really do think that now when I look back on that, because
What?
they would give
My
us
mom and dad?
30 cents and then maybe another dime to get an ice cream cone.
Yeah.
Because you could hang around, as long as you were going to buy a comic, you
Yeah.
could hang around there for a while.
Yeah. Right.
You know?
Kill it. after
And,
the afternoon.
and I
Supper.
think that's what happened. Plus, we were never allowed to walk in their bedroom. Nobody had there was no locks on any of the doors.
Yeah.
No bedroom had locks. The bathroom didn't have a lock.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were in the bathroom and you could hear somebody running up the stairs, you'd yell, "I'm in here!" And we knew that not to go ever open their door.
Yeah.
Probably because he slept in the nude or something, I would guess. Wouldn't you
I
think?
never opened the
Or
door.
who knows
When
what?
I found out. Yeah.
We might find out. But we had to stand outside the door and, you know,
Yeah.
"Mom!"
Mm-hmm.
Hey, speaking of hollering through doors, remember when kids would come over to the house instead of coming to the porch?
I know, I
They'd
thought
stand
about
out in the
that.
bottom
They
of the
did, they
steps.
stood at the bottom of the steps and yelled. Yeah.
Bernie used to really get mad at that.
Who did?
Dad, tell those kids to come up and knock on his door.
Those damn kids.
Yeah. Just yelling up from the street.
Larry!
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. Everybody did. You didn't go up and knock on somebody's door. You stood on the sidewalk and yelled. Yeah, I don't know what that was all about, but he's right. That is what we did. We also roller
And
skated.
they weren't first, everybody was by last name.
Yeah, right. Well,
Even the girls?
your buddies were. I think we called by first names, but we roller skated. We played with paper dolls,
Mm-hmm.
which were kind of
That
like
was fun.
forerunners
Yeah, good
to
times for
Barbies.
Yeah.
And I don't know what he did. He kind of took off, and
Yeah.
I have no idea. Nobody knows what he did.
Mhm.
His friends do, but I don't know what he did.
Played hooky, went to movies.
You played hooky from school.
Oh, yeah.
You mean they didn't check that? I never played hooky. Not until I was in high school. But I never did in grade school. I was
And we would
perfect.
hide in the cemetery because we figured the cops wouldn't be there looking for truants.
Cops look for truants?
Yeah.
Did they?
So if you're out on the sidewalk, you see a cop car
gosh, if
coming,
we
you
had
have to
only
ditch into
known.
an alley
Oh,
or
yeah.
something at that point.
Yeah, you knew you were supposed to be in grade school then, so they'd say, uh-oh.
Yeah, well, you know, we went to Catholic school, and some of us that sunk in, but other ones of us it didn't, I guess. We had to go to confession in the summer, but there again, I'm sure he didn't go. But
Sure, I had to go.
she didn't take you. We had to walk there. We had to walk to church.
Oh, you
Who's
mean
this-
when it wasn't during the school year?
No.
Oh, well, yeah.
No. See, but I did because you know I could have not gone and said I went. How would she know?
Mm-hmm.
But that would not even occur to me to do that.
Yeah.
But we did. We had to go to confession.
Well, remember being asked if I went.
No, we weren't asked either. Mom just assumed that most of
Well.
us were honest. And we do as she said. Some of us weren't.
Well, you didn't have to go the exact time she said she'd go.
Well, no, you had to go between 2 and 4 whenever confession was.
Well, did it have to be that day or that week?
Yeah, it had to be that day, Tom, and you didn't go. You had no mortal sins to commit.
So you guys, when you're out running around doing all this stuff, you probably knew like the neighborhood. Everybody in the neighborhood knows each other. It's more of like a network of people that might have seen you somewhere. If
Right.
You didn't come home, and so.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
You just start calling around the neighborhood to have you seen so and so.
Right. Yeah, you did know the neighbors. That's true.
And you didn't have to call. You just pick the phone up because they were party lines, so somebody had to be
Oh,
on
that's
it.
right. I forgot about the party line.
Start asking.
Yeah, party lines, they were the absolute
3
worst.
different rings. You have to know.
Yeah, you have to know whether it's a short or long ring.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And then you pick up the phone, and it would be just like in your own house if somebody else was on the other line, except it's the neighbors, which
Yeah.
we didn't really like anyhow, so not even, you know. And then if you wanted them to get off the phone, sometimes you'd say, you know, could you please, you know, we want to use the phone, or you'd slam it down real hard, and then that just made them mad.
Yeah.
So I was glad when we got off the old party line thing. But yeah, we played in the neighborhood. We made up stuff, like when it was raining out, we'd line up chairs like all kids do and play train, and we actually put on plays like the Little Rascals did in Mary Jo's backyard.
Yeah.
Our house was like the center of the neighborhood. And we
Yeah.
actually played baseball in that
In
intersection.
that intersection.
They had a line, and there was whatever the street width was. That was a base path. If you actually hit it, there was a house that would
Nobody's
be in
window
center
was
field that had screened-in porch. So if you could hit the ball up there, you don't have to worry about breaking the window because they had screens on it.
Yeah.
That was a home run.
Right.
But the idea was to hit one and pull it down either of the 2 streets, get it between the second baseman and first baseman, and then run down along the curb, and you could get it inside the park home run.
And then, of course, the guy that lived on one of the bases, he would break up the game because his wife was always sick. She was always sick. You kids, go stop it. You're making too much noise. My wife's sick. I'm like, I don't know if she ever died and what she was sick of. He just probably didn't want to hear the kids playing, but where are they going to go, you know? And then if they were playing in the backyard and the ball went over, you know, the shrubbery in our backyard, the guy wouldn't give it back. Mom would argue with him.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, give the kids their ball back.
Yeah.
The
And
guy that complained about
Mr.
us
Park?
making noise, no, the
Oh,
band,
Manny, yeah.
was the one and only tree surgeon I ever knew.
Oh, really?
Oh, that's right, I forgot he was a
He had
tree
this
surgeon.
big green truck that had all kinds of compartments in it, and it had Tom Banning Jr. on the door, tree surgeon. Whoa,
Tree surgeon, wow, you need
Fancy
to
stuff.
yeah, respect that guy.
Yeah, I guess
He's-
so. He's a doctor, for God's
He's the
sake.
guy that took me to the hospital when I
He was, him
put
and
my arm
Mrs.
through that
Saw.
window.
Right,
When Grandma wrapped it up in a towel and
Oh, yeah. He drove you?
he drove me.
and that
Yeah.
was a very exciting day. You know, in spite of all the freedom we had, I mean, I didn't do anything really exciting, but this was out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
You know, Tom being driven away,
Yeah.
bleeding, and, you know, Grandma was there.
Yeah.
And these neighbors, neither one of them he could stand.
Yeah.
But they took him to, and Dad was at the, at church.
Okay.
So we went to a 9 o'clock mass on Sunday, and Mom and Dad went to like 12 o'clock mass, because
Oh,
he
yeah.
got to sleep in. And so when he come home from church, Jean and I come running down to the corner, you know, with all this exciting news. Tom's in the hospital. He went through the front door, and he got his arms all bleeding, and he got this glass in his arm, and Dad, who never got, he was like a rock. He walked in, he goes, oh, let's see what's going on. I expected a little bit of excitement from him, but no. So he went in and talked to Grandma, and then he ate his breakfast, and then he walked down to the hospital, which
Yeah.
was right down on Market then, right? Isn't that where it was?
Yeah.
And Mom was in the hospital at the same time.
Yeah.
That's
So
convenient.
she wanted to see that Tom was okay.
Yeah.
So he
You
had
weren't
to.
allowed in the hospital.
No, you weren't allowed
couldn't
in.
visit.
Yeah, until you were
How old were
16.
you?
Yeah.
So we never got to go see her.
That was probably.
He had you
13,
sit on the
probably
front
13.
yard,
No, I sat on the wall of McKinley High School.
so she could look out her window
Yeah.
and see that you were. I'm okay, Ma. Her favorite kid, after all.
Yeah,
Come on.
right.
That's right.
You
That's
know.
why I could get away with stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had his back, and you know, it's like a lot of parents would say, mothers would say, "You wait till your dad gets home. Wait till I tell your dad." She would never say that because she knew what would happen,
Yeah.
and so she covered up for you a lot, I'm sure. I mean, he got stacked
for a
enough
long
without her
time.
saying anything.
I thought Jackass was my middle name. And we'd have projects where Bernie would try to do something. We'd install some wires or do some plumbing, and he's trying to feed conduit through the wall.
He would say, "Jiggle it."
Jiggle it, I'm not even jiggle it, jiggle it. He's screaming and rubber pounding on this conduit. He's like 3 bays over where the joists were. We're running it down over here.
Yeah.
He had no patience for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So you're thank you so much.
Your wife.
No, he definitely did not have any patience for that kind of stuff. And when he couldn't find something,
Yeah.
a pen or whatever, everything came to a screeching halt. And he would say, "Okay, where is this pen? I had it right here." It just didn't get up and walk away. Of course, that he always said that. And you know, Gene and I would like run upstairs to our room or something. No. Nobody's going. Gene goes, "Well, I have to go somewhere." And nobody's leaving until I find that pen. So everybody's scurrying around the house trying to find his pen.
Yeah.
That all goes back to his, you can use it, we'll put it back where you got it.
Back, huh?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely, yeah, it definitely did.
So you know, he got to do whatever he wanted as a kid, right? 'Cause,
Yes, he had more freedom than we had. And
Your
Dad.
dad.
Yeah, because
Okay.
his dad died
Yep.
when he was like 7 or something.
Yeah.
6 or 7. And then his mother had to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
And so he and his brother and sister were home all day by themselves.
Yeah.
And from the way he tells it, it sounds like he had like a little rascal experience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like tapping into the beer joint and stuff like that. That he'd hypnotizing a dog. I mean, they had
Dropping bowling balls out of second-story windows just to see what was going on.
I know, and putting a mattress outside,
Yeah.
jumping out the window on the mattress. I mean, there was no adult supervision at all.
Yeah.
He had a great childhood. I mean,
That was
they were
definitely
poor. That was at Grandma's house.
Yeah.
They were poor and they ate cornflakes all the time, but he had a fun childhood.
Yeah. So you know, he didn't have a dad. Do you think that's why he always?
Oh, definitely, because his
Got to
dad
do-
supposedly was really, really strict.
Oh,
but
yeah.
his dad wasn't a drinker, and that was the interesting thing of it all.
My
Yeah.
grandma was a drinker.
She wasn't either, because she said, Grandma said, your grandpa did not drink. She said, even when he had the stomach cancer and his doctor suggested a cup of whiskey would help, he said no.
No way.
Now he didn't join the Holy Name Society because he did swear, but he didn't drink, she said.
He actually worked at one of the rubber companies. I don't know if it's good
Yeah.
or not, but he was a tire
Yeah,
driver.
I know. I saw that picture, that snapshot of them with the tires, and